The smell of the Costco bakery is a psychological trap. You know the one. That warm, buttery, vanilla lace cloud that hits you the second you walk past the tire center. It's designed to make you feel like you're in a local, small-town shop where everything was whisked by hand an hour ago. But the baker I spoke to, a guy who spent 12 years behind those massive industrial ovens, practically begged me to keep my mouth shut about what's actually happening behind that plexiglass. He wasn't worried about me stealing a secret recipe for the frosting. He was worried you'd realize that the freshly baked label is the most successful marketing illusion in retail history. If you think you're getting an artisanal deal when you toss those massive muffins into your cart, you're missing the bigger picture. I've spent the last 15 years dissecting retail supply chains and uncovering how warehouse giants manipulate our buying habits. I've seen the spreadsheets, I've talked to the whistleblowers, and I've tracked the margins. I know exactly why you feel like you're winning the game when you leave with a 5-pound rotisserie chicken and a slab of sheet cake, but here's the reality. The bakery isn't there to feed you. It's there to distract you. But it gets much weirder than just clever marketing. You see, we have this collective obsession with the Kirkland signature quality. We trust it blindly. We assume that because the price is low and the volume is high, we're cutting out the middleman. But what if I told you that in the bakery, the middleman isn't gone, he's just hidden in a cardboard box? Most people walking through those aisles assume there's a team of pastry chefs in the back, cracking eggs and measuring out flour for every loaf of bread. That's the dream, right? But the secret this baker shared with me, the one that keeps the regional managers up at night, starts with the scratch-made lie. Think about the sheer scale of a Costco warehouse. We're talking about a company that moves millions of units of bakery items a week. If they were truly baking everything from scratch, the labor costs alone would double the price of your favorite chocolate chip cookies. The truth is, a massive percentage of what you see on those tables is actually thaw and serve or par-baked. I know, sounds cynical, but stay with me because this changes how you look at the expiration dates. Those cookies you love? They often arrive as pre-formed frozen pucks in giant crates. The baking process is really just a reheating process. The baker told me that the real skill in a Costco bakery isn't being a chef, it's being a logistics expert who can manage a freezer the size of a suburban house. But here's where it gets truly wild. If you've ever wondered why the muffins are sold in those mandatory 2-pack containers, you've probably told yourself it's just the wholesale way. You think, well, it's Costco, I have to buy in bulk. But there's a much more calculated reason for that 6-pound muffin haul that has nothing to do with saving you money. The baker revealed that the 2-pack rule is a strategic move to clear inventory that's reaching its chemical break point. Because so many of these items use specific preservatives to stay soft for days, they have a very narrow window where they look and taste premium. By forcing you to take 12 muffins instead of 6, they ensure the product moves out of the warehouse faster than the ingredients can begin to separate or stale. You aren't getting a deal. You're acting as their inventory liquidator. And if you think the ingredients are the same as what you'd use at home, you're in for a massive wake-up call. We're going to talk about the frosting secret that most people wouldn't believe unless they saw the labels themselves. I know this might be hard to hear, especially if you've been a loyal Costco shopper for decades. I get it. I've been there too, loading up the flatbed for a birthday party and feeling like a hero. But once you see the invisible shelf life trick, you can't unsee it. The scent of those cinnamon rolls isn't just a byproduct of baking, it's a tactical deployment. My source in the bakery confirmed that they actually time the pull of certain items to coincide with peak foot traffic. They aren't just baking when they're low on stock, They're baking to ensure that the vent fans are pumping that sugar and yeast perfume directly into the main aisles right when the mid-afternoon rush hits. It's a biological trigger that bypasses your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles your budget, and goes straight to your stomach. You didn't come in for a 12-pack of croissants, but your brain just received a signal that they're fresh, and suddenly, they're in your cart. But it gets worse. Let's talk about the rotisserie halo. You've probably noticed the bakery is almost always positioned right next to the rotisserie chickens. That's not a coincidence. It's a layout strategy designed to exploit decision fatigue. By the time you've trekked to the back of the warehouse for that $4.99 chicken, you've already made dozens of micro-decisions. Your willpower is drained. The baker told me they call the area between the chickens and the bakery the impulse zone. You've saved money on the bird, so your brain tells you that you've earned a giant tuxedo cake. It's a classic bait and switch on your dopamine levels. Now, you might be asking, if they're cutting all these corners with frozen dough, why does the bread still taste so much better than the stuff at the local grocery store? Here's the secret they really didn't want me to leak: the water margin. Standard grocery store bread is often pumped with air and high fructose corn syrup to keep it shelf stable for weeks. Costco, because they move volume so fast, doesn't have to worry about a 3-week shelf life. Instead, they use a much higher hydration shell. The baker explained that by keeping the moisture content high in the dough, even the frozen stuff, they create a mouthfeel that mimics high-end artisanal bakeries. But there's a catch. High moisture means high mold risk. That's why your Costco bread seems to go from perfect to green in about 48 hours if you don't freeze it. They aren't giving you better ingredients, they're giving you a shorter fuse. And speaking of ingredients, let's look at the butter illusion. If you look at the labels on the premium cookies, you'll see butter listed. Great, right? But what the baker told me blew my mind. They often use a blended fat system for the bulk items. They'll use just enough real butter to keep it high on the ingredient list for marketing, but the structural integrity and the soft chew that lasts for days comes from highly processed oils that your body has a much harder time breaking down. It's a chemical masterclass in making a $10 bucket of cookies taste like a $40 boutique treat. I know, it sounds like I'm tearing down a legend. But I'm telling you this because once you understand the batch code secret, you'll never look at a display table the same way again. Every single table in that bakery has a hot zone and a dead zone. The baker showed me how they rotate the stock. The items at the very front, closest to the aisle, are almost always the ones that are closest to their sell-by date. They know most shoppers are in a hurry and grab the first thing they see. The fresh out of the oven stuff? That's usually tucked toward the back, or even kept on the cooling racks behind the counter. But here's the kicker, and this is the part that actually made the baker nervous to talk about. There is a specific repurposing cycle for unsold items that never makes it onto the official corporate brochures. When those giant sheet cakes don't sell, or when a batch of muffins hits that break point I mentioned earlier, they don't always just go into the trash. Take those massive, buttery croissants that didn't sell yesterday. In many locations, those aren't tossed. They're sliced open, stuffed with almond paste, topped with sliced nuts, and baked again to become almond croissants. It sounds like a gourmet upgrade, right? In reality, it's a brilliant way to extend the shelf life of a stale product by another 24 to 48 hours while charging you a premium for the extra labor. But it's not just the croissants. The crumb secret is even more pervasive. Have you ever wondered why so many Costco desserts have a thick layer of cake crumbs or cookie crust on the bottom? The baker let it slip that broken cookies, edge pieces from sheet cakes, And muffins that didn't quite make the weight requirement are often pulverized into base material. They aren't wasting a single gram of flour. You think you're getting a complex, multi-textured dessert, but you're often just eating the structural leftovers of Tuesday's production run. It's the ultimate high-margin play because their waste becomes your premium treat. Now, let's talk about the Kirkland ingredient smoke and mirrors. We've all heard the rumors that Kirkland vodka is actually Grey Goose or their coffee is Starbucks. People love the idea of a secret luxury brand hiding behind a white label. But in the bakery, it's the opposite. The baker explained that while the packaging says Kirkland Signature, the actual industrial mixes, the huge 50-pound bags of muffin base, or cake blend, are often formulated by the same massive global suppliers that provide the ingredients for fast food chains and budget supermarkets. The secret isn't that it's high-end. The secret is the stabilizers. They use specific enzymes that keep that cake feeling moist and freshly baked for 5 days on your kitchen counter. Natural bread or cake shouldn't do that. If your cake is still spongy on day 6, you aren't eating a miracle of baking. You're eating a miracle of chemical engineering. Now, you might be asking, does this mean I should never buy from the Costco bakery again? Not exactly. But you have to know how to hack the system. Here's the secret the baker told me to use every time. Look for the unlabeled racks. Sometimes, behind the main display tables, there are silver rolling racks with items that haven't been packaged or priced yet. Those are the only things that are truly fresh. If you see a baker nearby, ask if you can have a pack from the cooling rack instead of the table. Usually, they'll say yes. That's the only way to bypass the first in, first out rotation that forces the oldest stock into your hands. The biggest takeaway from all of this? Costco isn't a bakery that happens to be in a warehouse. It's a warehouse that uses bakery theater to keep you inside longer, smelling more, and spending more. The secrets they begged me not to share aren't about the recipes. They're about the psychological architecture of the building itself. Next time you walk past that tire center and that vanilla scent hits you, remember, you're being hunted by a smell. I've spent 15 years watching these retail giants, and trust me, the bakery is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to know how they're manipulating your savings, in the meat department or the electronics aisle, you're going to want to see what I uncovered next.